Hello, my name is Cody Eldridge, and I will be talking about Chapter 12 in our book. And the first learning objectives for this particular chapter are apply the three-step writing process to persuasive messages. The second one is describe an effective strategy for developing persuasive business messages, and identify the three most common categories for persuasive business messages. And then third, describe an effective strategy for developing marketing and sales messages, and explain how to modify your approach when writing promotional messages for social media. Then finally, we're going to identify steps you can take to avoid ethical lapses in marketing and sales messages. The first learning objective: apply the three-step writing process. The first step in the writing process is just simply to plan your persuasive message, and this is really basic. You're just coming up with ideas of how you're going to approach this message and how it's going to be delivered to your audience. The next one is to write your persuasive message, and again, pretty simple. You're just laying out what you're gonna say and making sure that the tone is set right and it'll make sense to your audience. Then finally, you're completing your persuasive message. And again, this is just tying up loose ends, making sure that it makes sense, and making sure the tone is right and that any possible spelling or grammatical errors are taken care of. And again, that it'll make sense to the audience. The second learning objective is develop strategies for persuasive business messages and the three most common persuasive messages. The first strategy for developing a persuasive business message is to frame your arguments, and this is basically you're just coming up with ideas of how you're going to deliver or really persuade an individual, or your audience to accept your ideas and that kind of thing. Next, you're going to want to balance your emotional and logical appeals. Emotional appeals are basically just that. You're simply you're relying on your audience's sympathies and feelings rather than providing them with facts and figures. And logical appeals are just the exact opposite of that. You are providing them with facts and figures and data to reinforce your ideas. And then you're gonna reinforce your position, and this is basically just backing up your thoughts and your arguments with again those facts and figures and the data. And then finally, you're gonna want to anticipate objections, because of course there are going to be people who disagree with what you're saying, or can find alternatives to what you're saying. The most common persuasive business messages are persuasive requests for action, persuasive presentations of ideas, and then persuasive claims and requests for adjustments. Learning objective 3, we're developing marketing and sales messages. Um, and this is, again, really goes back to the writing process, which is simply you're just planning your marketing message or your sales or marketing message, and then you're just gonna just start writing. Go with um, what you think is best for your audience and how you think it'll best be delivered to them, how they'll understand it, and then you're writing your messages on the final step, more specifically for like social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, and that kind of thing. The final one is ethical issues that may be encountered during the writing process, and these are really pretty basic. You're gonna want to make sure your message is truthful, otherwise nobody's gonna take you seriously. Again, you're gonna want to provide evidence and back up your claims with data and information and that kind of thing. Avoid the classic bait and switch. We're saying we're gonna do one thing, but then at the last second we're gonna toss that out and provide you with something else, and this is actually against the law. So a pretty good idea to avoid that. You're gonna want to watch your excuse me, watch your messages and advertising that's aimed at children. excuse me. Um, that's because there are certain, I don't want to say laws, but there are certain guidelines to how you can approach children with different advertising and messages. Um, and then the next one is that sales and marketing messages are often legally binding in a lot of states and I'm sure a lot of countries. So you're going to want to make sure that again you're providing the public and your customers with the truth, and not making sure that what you're saying is what you're providing. And then finally, any advertisements that you're coming up with or messages, you're going to want to make sure that any individuals that appear in your pictures or pamphlets or whatever, that you have their permission to appear, uh, that you have their permission to use their likeness or image in your advertising. And that's it. Thank you very much.